from earlier in the day. Hi, everybody, it's me again. I'm making this video after announcing our giveaway winner. I want to just talk briefly about some stuff I am dealing with right now. I started this YouTube channel because I wanted to lose weight. I want to lose weight, but things have really gone a lot to the left. I have not passed the 30 pounds that I started with. And just been some, one obstacle after another one. So what I'm dealing with right now, I had my mammogram, and I had very early stage breast cancer in 2005. And I think prior to, in my left breast, and then in 2001 or 2, I found a lump in my right breast, which ended up being benign. So I try to make those mammograms every year because I'm a bit of a hypochondriac. So I received a letter from the breast care center saying they didn't see anything, but I was supposed to come back later. And I get a call a couple of weeks ago, not from my doctor or her nurse, but from the receptionist at my doctor's office saying I needed to go back for a scan and ultrasound August the 3rd. Now that upset me a lot because when I found the lump and told my doctor about it, and she gave me the exam, she said, I don't feel anything. And then, the people telling me that the test, that the mammogram, didn't show anything, or they didn't see a problem, but then to get a call and saying, well, we need to get you in as soon as possible. And I've been trying to get this done since January. And I've run into problem after problem with people not scheduling me where I needed to be scheduled, not listening to me when I tell them this whole scenario, So I'm a little bit nervous. I'm not scared. I'm just worried. I don't want it to come back. So, okay. Now, in talking about that, I have a rant of sorts. I try to be a good person. I wasn't always the person that I'm working on being right now. And I've always been the person to help everybody in my family, from the oldest to the youngest. If I know you're related to me, I'm there for you. Well, I know in a lot of families, not yours, but in other families like mine, sometimes we have people in our families who have issues with substances, and they abuse certain substances. Well, my mom and dad tried to help some of my people in my family with that before they passed away. And I think that what those people were dealing with contributed a lot to my mama's passing. In 2008, after being not doing so well myself, and coming home, I decided that I was going to come back to Macon. My mama was alive, and the last time I saw my mother was the weekend that President Obama got elected, which is also the weekend of my daughter's birthday. And I had the plan was for me to come back that Wednesday to begin the process of moving from Atlanta. I was actually living in Duluth, a suburb of Atlanta, to come back to Macon and help my mama with the children since my daddy had passed away. So that Sunday before I left, y'all, I was trying to convince my mother to leave one of the houses that she had. Things were just really bad in that area, and I didn't want her to be there. And I have a hard time with this. The last thing I said to my mother was like, God has blessed you so, but He is not pleased with you being in this particular place. And I remember telling her she had to shake the dust off of her foot and leave that area where it was. So that was Sunday afternoon, and I drove back to Atlanta thinking about it. I felt bad because she didn't like what I said. So the next morning, Monday before daylight, my nephew calls me and tells me my mom was throwing up and she doesn't feel well, and they were taking her to the emergency room. And I was like, well, let me talk to her. She didn't take the phone. They said she didn't feel like talking right now. They got her to the emergency room. Everybody was up there, and I couldn't come back. I just got back to Atlanta, and I was not able to come back the next day. So I kept calling throughout the day, and they would say, "Mom, I don't feel good. She want to talk to you." And so I remember like, she just mad. And so every time I would call up there, a different sister was there, or my daughter, or one of the nieces and nephews. I never did get to talk to them. So that night, about 1 o'clock in the morning, my niece called me. Isha, her name is Cheryl. She was named after me. She said, "Mom, something happened to Mom. They in there working on her." And I said, "Could you get me a nurse?" And the nurse was like, "Yeah, you need to come up here right now and see about your mama." When you get that kind of conversation from a hospital person, you need to immediately go to the hospital. You need to do everything you can go to get there. I didn't know it at the time. So I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get home. Well, a few minutes later, the next call I get, they tell me my mom is gone. That she had a heart attack and they weren't able to save her. So I didn't even get to talk to her. But that next day, Kira came to get me and she took me home. And we started preparing for my mama's funeral. So my mama had custody of some of my relatives' children. And my brother Junebug was there, and Anthony. And me being the oldest, I figured, well, this is what Mom would want you to do, and this is what I'm gonna do. This is my responsibility now. So I took over those children, and I left my mother's houses behind and rented houses because the neighborhood was just horrible with drugs and all kinds of horrible stuff. And I rented a big house, and I had my Anthony and Junebug, and I had 4 children and my sister. And I started doing everything I could that I'd seen my mother do to take care of everybody, and we were getting along pretty good for the first couple of weeks. But prior to that, some of the children didn't want to do the things that they needed to do, and we had some run-ins because unlike my mama, if I'm the adult and you're the kid, you're not going to tell me what you can do, and you're not going to stay under the roof with me and tell me what you can and you will and you won't do. And so it took a little while, but I got everybody to agree to cooperate with me, and we did good. In the meantime, I'm not aware of the things that certain family members are saying about me. One of the houses that my mother had, one of my sisters was living in it, but I told her, I think the conditions there are pretty bad. I said, I tell you what, the house that I rented, won't you stay there? I said, I'll do all the stuff that needs to be done. I'll pay all the bills. I'll buy all the food. I'll make sure Junebug and Anthony and all the children have what they need, but you stay in that house. But here are the rules. No smoking, no drinking. Your buddies and friends, they can't come in and out of here with their liquor and their cigarettes. We just not going to do that. So rather than my sister do that, she said, no, I'll just stay where I am. So the house that she was staying in, that house was my house and Junebug's house on the deed. When my mama died, that house was paid off. It wasn't nothing. I abandoned both houses. They were okay. So we go along, and sometimes everybody would cooperate, sometimes they would not. I had a 14-year-old girl staying with me who made up her mind that she was going to stay out all night. She was going to come and go when she pleased. She was going to come home from school some days, other days she wasn't. Same thing with her brother. And then the little brother started trying to do what they were doing. And I wouldn't stand for it. If they didn't come home by 7 o'clock, I'm calling the police to report you missing. Especially when you haven't talked to me. You don't get to walk out of my door at 10 o'clock at night. And I'm responsible for you. I was their legal guardian. I had custodial responsibilities with the attorneys and defects regarding these children. And I was vigilant in my love for them and my protection of them. But they took all of that to make, me look like the wicked witch. So one nephew, one night, he had stayed out with one of his school teachers. And I was offended by that, And I said, you can't do that. And I said, what kind of teacher you? I called up there to the school and I talked to the man. I said, you know what? I don't know where you think you are. I said, but you won't get away with this. I said, I don't know what you're doing, but you ain't going to do it with this boy. And he was like, well, your nephew's already told me that you are mean and hateful and you don't do this for them and you don't do that and this, that, and the other. And I was like, that ain't none of your business. But when I go up there and tell the principal and the Board of Education that you letting this teenage boy spend the night at your house without my permission, let's see where the chip's going to fall then. That nephew came home and we had words. I don't think he tried to fight me. And my daughter wasn't going to let him hit me. So, her trying to keep him off of me, he hit Kira so hard. And his little brother got him off of Kira. We called the police. The man saw the bruises on my baby's neck, on her face. And I said, don't lock him up. I said, but can you take him to my sister? And that's where everything started. That's where Ethan's daddy came to stay with me a couple of weeks later. And the sheriff came to my house and served me a subpoena to appear in court to answer what they call it, child depreciation. I don't know what it was. Where they were contending that I was emotionally abusive because I had said to them they were not going to kill me the way they killed my mama. That's exactly what I said. So, go to court. Now, we get the subpoena one day, and my nephew is there. And I call my other sister, and from that day on, I never hear from anybody else in my family. We go to court a month later. My daughter and I walk in the courthouse the way you're supposed to come in. While we sitting there waiting to go in, here comes the rest of my family. From all kinds of directions. Nobody called me, nobody would talk to me. So we go in there, and we talking. Before we go into the courtroom, we meeting with the defects people and my lawyer. She wasn't my lawyer, she was some court-appointed person to help me. And they were asking me things about, my sister was telling them that I never, the money that she got, that I wouldn't give her any of her money. No, I did not. I spent that money on clothing and food and shoes for her children, for her. I paid the light bill and the gas bill, rent, water bill. I made sure they had cable TV because they liked that. I made sure they had internet so that they could do their homework, and I bought them a computer with my money because I've been getting a pension for a long time. So, the little bit that they contributed was nothing, to what I had to put down, so all of us were cared for. So anyway, long story short, we're just going back and forth in there. And my sister had left too. because she said she wanted her own place. But she used me to get that place. She made people think that things that I was so mean, and it was just so horrible for her. So I asked her, I said, would you tell the people where your money went before I came here? Did you buy your children any clothes before I came here? She wouldn't answer. I said, would you tell them? I said, I'll tell y'all what happened before I came here. The dope man would come to my mama's door, beat on it for my sister's check, because she done got that much dope from him. Well, he took the whole check from my mama. I said, did you tell him that? Did you tell him that since I've been here and you've been with me, that you no longer do drugs? Did you tell him that? And they were like, why she don't do drugs? I said, because I'm tell her she can't come in my house like that. She can't go in and out of my house all night looking for drugs. She can't do that. And she knew that if she was with me, she wasn't going to have nowhere to stay. And then they were like, well, that sounds cruel to me. I said, it's not cruel. It's cruel for her children to see that. But for me to do what I did, it was the right thing. I told her, you go out of here again, you ain't coming back. Okay. While we sitting there, they decided we're going to have a break before we go into the courtroom to talk to the judge. I said, well, let me just say one thing before we go out there. When I had the two little bitty ones, they were in great shape. They might not do what I want to do, but they were doing well. I said, now you tell me how the boy jumped into the gang last night. The folks gang then attacked him and made him a member. But that wouldn't happen with me because you had to come home every day. I picked you up from the bus stop and took you in the house. But now he's forced to be in a gang. And tell me why this girl at 14 years old got tattoos at the bottom of her behind and across her breast. She didn't have those tattoos when she was living with me. So they just put a stop to everything just like that and went and checked out to see if what I was telling was the truth. The little boy had injuries on him that they could see. The girl, they made her reveal those tattoos. She got them after she was removed from my house. So 30 minutes later, those people came, begged my pardon, and asked me to take those children back. I said I'd be glad to. The girl wouldn't come. She raised so much hell down there, she wouldn't come back. But the little boy came back. And I did my best to take care of him. But eventually I had to let him go. Now, fast forward to 2 days ago. Even with that, I stood by them. I forgot all about that stuff the day I left the courtroom. Anytime they call me, I'm right there. I don't have no money to pay this. I need that. I got it. Don't worry about it. What's the name? Needs some this for school. We need some shoes for it. I got it. Don't worry about it. I just said, you know, that's my family. I love them folk. They too stupid to understand that they did something to hurt me. They were after what they wanted. The children wanted to do whatever they wanted to do. And my sister, she just wanted people to give her what she wanted. And she got it. She got her Section 8 apartment. She got somebody that she does not know to be over her check. And those people give her $20 after they pay her bills. And she got to give a good reason to get that $20. That's today. That's 6 years later. So, here we go. The other day, my little sister calls me crying. She had a cyst on her ear the other day that was leaking some fluid. And she's a hypochondriac. I am too, to some degree. And I know how it is to be scared. So, she called me and I was trying to walk her through stuff and got her husband to take her to the doctor. And, you know, they told her, yeah, it's infected. And it was so bad that they had to give her an IV for the infection, not send her home with some pills, you know. So she was telling one of my nephew's girlfriend, She said, I'm so scared, you know. And the lady said, yeah, you probably got cancer. My sister called me crying. I thought one of the children were dead. So after she calmed down and I told her everything was going to be okay, I said, let me speak to that girl that said that to you. No, Nanny, I don't want you to upset anybody. I don't want you to. I said, I'm not going to say anything mean. Just let me talk to her and just let her understand that we have to be real careful with you. So I get on the phone, and this is exactly the tone of voice I use because I had to practice before I talked to her. I said, hello, Tijuana. I'm Vet's oldest sister, and I just want to ask you that if she comes to you with any kind of, you know, she doesn't feel well or something, would you just do this for me? Just tell her you're not a doctor and that she's going to be all right. Just encourage her to go to the doctor and tell her everything's going to be okay. I said, because my sister will worry herself sick, physically throwing up, just can't sleep, just worry herself to death when she thinks that something is wrong. You can't convince her that she doesn't have brain cancer. Right now, my sister is convinced that she is going to die. So as I was speaking to the girl, she said, yeah. And I'm 53 years old, and I have respect for people who are 10, 15, 20 years younger than me. I said, I said, did I offend you? And the next thing I know, I'm not on the phone. So a few minutes later, my daughter answers, and I said, Kira, do you know that girl hung up in my face? She said, no, I wasn't inside. She said, I was wondering how Lolly got my phone. They were at my sister's house. So my sister had taken the young lady the telephone, and my sister went into her bedroom and closed her bedroom door. She didn't stand there while I tried to defend her, or at least make an explanation to the girl about why we don't talk about stuff like that in front of her. Girl hung up in my face, and Kira was upset, but I was like, it's no big deal. And then they were telling me that this particular girl, she would take it out on my nephew later. That she was going to either put him out or make him get out of the car. I didn't have his phone number. So I went to his Facebook page and I told him, I said, you know, son, I love you. You don't have to take any crap off of anybody. I could use your help over here. I have an extra bedroom. If you need me, call me. And I had told him that I wanted to take him on a visit to my alma mater, to my college campus, so, you know, he could see that life had a lot more to offer him than running around in this town. Well, the next morning, I get up and my nephew's reply to me was, I don't know your number. I don't know where you live. Let's keep it that way. I said, oh my God, no he didn't. And I called my sister to tell her what he said, and she was like, ooh, I'm sorry. Now this is the sister I was defending. I said, yeah, me too. I didn't mean for you to get your feelings hurt. I just was, I just did what you told me. I said, it doesn't matter. I said, somebody hurt you and scared you, and my job is to defend you. I'm your big sister. That's what I'm going to do. So then the rest of the time, the rest of the nieces and nephews are just talking about me, you know. I'm Eveline to them because what my daughter said, they sent her text the next day, your mama always doing the most. She thinks she can tell people how to live their life. It wasn't that serious. She didn't have to talk to my girl that way. I just told the girl, my sister is scared. Please don't talk to her that way. Now see, they will defend folks in the street, but they won't look up for their own family. I had so many rallies and protests I was getting together for my brother. Strangers would come from out of state, out of town. My nieces and nephews, Junebug used to do everything for them when they were growing up. Okay. So anyway, that nephew boy hurt me. I cried about that. Because when he and all 6 of his sisters and brothers were born, it was me. with their mama, making sure that when they were born they had Pampers and formula and a new outfit to wear home and clothes to wear. I'm buying school supplies for 15 children. I only have one. I've been doing that since anybody had a baby in my family. They weren't aware that my mama would require me to pay the mortgage sometimes. They didn't know that when they needed coats and shoes, it was me that made sure they had that stuff. Me and my mama. So, you know, sometimes you have to separate yourself from people. Because, you know, sometimes it doesn't matter how good you treated them, how far you've gone for them, how much you stand in the gap for them. They got in their minds that you aren't somebody they even want to deal with. And this particular nephew wouldn't listen to me. When I first came home, my first conversation with him was, "You're 18. And I'm going to tell you what nobody else is going to tell you. The only thing the city of Macon has for you is a cell and a bed. Stay out of the way. Don't hang with those children down the street." Had him going to church, Bible study. Then he started staying out late, and then he just stopped coming back to the house. And maybe a year after he stopped coming back to the house, he was arrested for selling drugs. And he served 3 years in prison. Now he can't vote. He can't get a good job. Not to mention he has tattoos in his face, in his head, from this point of his body all the way down to his, all I've ever seen is his waist, his arms. He had an interview at the Walmart around the corner that one of my other nephews works at. When they saw him, the man wouldn't even interview him. He told him, "We don't have any more. That position is no longer available." He did finally get a job somewhere in somebody's kitchen, which is good. But I say all that to say, I don't understand. I don't understand. I guess I feel better. I got that off my chest. I have just decided that, you know, I need to put some distance between me and them. They're never gonna see things the way I see them. They'll never listen to me. They have no respect for me. So there's nothing I can do. I can continue to love them hard from a distance. And that is what I told my nephew on his Facebook page. I said, well, I'm glad to know that's where I stand with you. I still love you, and you can't do anything about that. And that's going to be the end of it. But if anybody needs me, I'm still going to be there, especially my sisters, because they're all I have left. I'm the matriarch of this family. My Uncle Curtis died in February, y'all know, and he was my mama's brother. And my daddy, his whole family is dead, so. But, you know, I can't live for my sister and those children. I had to live for Kira, for Lala, Lolly, and Ian. who will make his debut on October 16th. So even though I'm nervous about my health and all of that, I got to get in training for this newborn. And anybody that doesn't want to be a part of what Shakira and me and these children are having, sorry for them. I guess I feel better. I don't know if I'll upload this or not. I just have had so much crap to fall on me in the last week. Make me nervous. Anyway, tomorrow is a new day. But you know what? If those people, if God is with me, honestly, who can be against me? Everything I've done doesn't separate me from God, so what they do to me won't separate me from Him. It might serve to separate me from them for a time, but maybe that's what we need. And He still can't stop me from loving Him, can He?